Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today, let's start this Bava Kamadaf Tzadi Ches. We're going to begin on Tzadi Ches of it all four from the top. Omar Rabbi Hazorik Matbeya Shel Chaveroi Liyam Gadol. You decided to take your friend's coin, and it wasn't a wishing well or anything, but you just decided to take it and throw it into the Mediterranean Sea, the Yam HaTichon. Says Rashi, Afgav Shein Yochol Litloi. You can't take it, Potter. So we're going to end up explaining why would you be potter in this situation if actually you threw someone else's coin in the Yam HaMelech. So my time, so ha manach kamoch. You can say it is standing in front of you. Says Rashi. Deloi shakli biyade. He didn't actually take it in his own hands. El di ade shahaisa biyad ba'alim. It was in the Baal's hand. V'kahu zet tachas yadai, and he basically whacked his hand. V'nitzal yam, and then it flew into the Yam HaMelech. Hayel sululim heim, since it's very clear waters. The kachazule, he can see the coin, even though it's, let's say, 1,000 feet down. Normally hamanach kamach, it's in front of you. Ve'ena avuda, it's not lost. V'imishum deboy lameis of zuza lavar amora lameishat. That maybe he has to pay someone money to swim down there and to get it. So that's a grama. Shigoyim lahasido so sachar grama mazikin potter. Even though you have to pay like some deep sea diver to get to that coin, the din is that it's only a grama. Okay, so that's the answers. So again, my time Omer. You can say hamanach kamoch. That's in front of you. Boy is shakli. Go and take it. Behanimili b'slulin, as we saw in Rashi, it has to be clear water so you can see it. To kachazile. Alachurim, but if it's muddy, dirty waters, the kachazile, you can't see the coin. Low. So in that situation, that is you would be chayim. You would be chayiv because it's considered to be like a masabi adayim that you lost it. Mamish caused him to lose. Because there's no way you can find it. It's impossible to find. It's too dirty. You can't find the water. Find the coin. Behind immediately, the adi aduye. Again, Rashi already said this. It's only if you pushed his hand. Aval shakle biyade. If the guy actually grabbed it out of your hand, migzel gazle hashava boy lemevid. So you stole it, and therefore you have to return it. So therefore, it's, again, let's say he's holding the coin and you whack it out of his hand and the coin flies out. That's what we're talking about. So you were never koine it. So you were never a gazlan because you didn't steal it, but you did something which caused him a loss, which is a grama. Meisiv Rava. In mechalon al moish she'enu b'rshusai. So he said, and we had this before, that you cannot be machal on money which is not in your domain, says Rashi. Alma avud chashiv le b'yam hagadol. Therefore, it's considered, if it's not in your domain, similar to the Yam HaGadol, so then it's considered to be out of your hands. And therefore, why would you say you're potter in that case? Because on the Yam HaGadol, you should be chayiv for knocking the coin out. Let's say you have money in this particular place, which is very far away, O Bahar HaMelech, Osha Nafal Kiso Yam HaGadol in Mechalon. So this is the question. It says Beferish that if the coin fell into Yam HaGadol in Mechalon, so we see clearly the din is that Ovid Choshev Le B'Yam HaGadol, it's considered to be lost. So Marabba Shani L'Inyan Meister the B'Inyan Matsu B'Yadcha the Rachmana Omer V'Sartakas B'Yadcha V'Leika. When it comes to the din of Meister Sheni, we have a special din that it has to be biyadcha, in your hands. It's not enough that you could see it. So even though it may be real, you could see the Yam HaGadol. However, when it comes to Meiser Sheni, there's an extra requirement. V'omer rabba hashaft matbeh shel chaver potter. If a person removed or ruined a coin of his friend, so also in that case, you're going to be potter, my timer, the whole abad lamidi, because you didn't really do anything. Behind the only time you're going to be potter is the machye bikurnasa, where you banged it with a hammer, vitarshe, and you flattened it. Says Rashi, vitarshe asin ke'evan, like you made it like chalka, you made it into like a smooth stone. But But if you start filing it down with a file, then you're causing it to actually be lost. And therefore, you're mamish causing a loss. It's not a grama. And therefore, you're going to be chayiv in that case. Okay, let's go quickly to question 6a. Hashav matbei shel chavero mahadin. So it depends. If you whack it with a hammer and it flattened it, you're pater. However, if you file it, then you are chayiv. Meisiv Rava. So on this, Rava asked the following question. Hikahu al einai. So when it comes to an Eved Kanain, if you hit him on the eye, the Sima al Ozno, you hit his ear, the Chersho, he becomes blind, and he call Ein of a Sima, or al Ozno v'Chersho, every Yasmin v'Cheres. He goes free. Keneged Einu v'Einuroi, if you hit opposite his ear, now he can't hear. Again, Keneged Einu v'Einuroi, you hit near his eye, and now he cannot see. Or Keneged Ozno v'Eino Shemea, you hit somewhere near his ears, now he can't hear, then Ein Eved Yasmin v'Cheres. So, as we said, because there's an element of fear, so says Rashi, Alma afagav doli chasre. He's not missing out, right? You're not missing anything. Kivan di asa ma'isa b'gufo. Since you did an action yourself, lav grama kachashiv. That's not indirect. El mamish. It's considered to be mamish. That's why he goes free. So v'hachinami says Rashi, Kivan demachia be'kurnasei upachte. Since you hit the coin with a hammer and it flattened it, v'al kacha chisroi damim, and because of that now it's worth less. Masahu. That's considered to be an actual action. So why would we say that you're going to be pater in that case? So Rabbi Tamed, Yamar Rabba, Chershel Aviv, if you deafen your father, this says Rashi, Gabi Eved Nami Chisaranhu. When it comes to an Eved, we're going to see it's a Chisaran. Just like if a person would deafen his father, he would be killed. There's no question that a Chabura took place, as we saw before. Why? The tipta the damah nafale ba'unne. There's going to be some blood that was going to have been affected. Some blood vessels may have popped, and therefore you actually did cause a chabura, and therefore for that reason you're going to be chayiv for harming your father. So too, if you would do this to the ear, you actually are causing a chisaron. You're causing an actual something missing because of the blood and the chabura. So dafka in that situation, you're going to be chayiv, but you can't compare it to a coin. The Yomi Rabba hatzayrim oizen paraisa shachaver pater. If a person makes a pagam, a cut, some blemish on the ear of the cow of your friend, you're pater. So, my taima, para kidikaimi kaima, the lovin v'lavlamidi, the kula shvarim lavagabim mizbeach kaimi, because this is just an ox. What are you going to do with an ox? So it has a little blemish on its ear. It can still do its plowing. You can shecht it. So what's the one thing you can't do? You can't bring on the mizbeach. But not every shor is would end up going on the mizbeach anyway. So you didn't really cause any loss. Meisiv Rabba, a person does malacha with the mechatas or paras chatas, patim and the other shemayim. So what did you do? Shakal kenegdan mishkolos. Let's say you took weights. In order to have a counterweight, you used the mechatas. So any malacha that's done with these things passes it for the mechatas. So because of that, you're going to be chayiv b'di shemayim. Malacha hudula minker hazeka. It's just because it's malacha which is not nicker. So therefore, that's the reason why you're pater b'di adam. You're pater b'di adam because you're only chayiv b'di adam if it's a hezek which is nicker. This is a hezek sheinu nicker because it's not in any way determined that there's anything wrong with it. It looks the same. The malacha, so apostles it. But the reality is it's a hezek sheinu nicker. So you're going to be pater b'di adam. But if you actually make mashma, if instead you would take the paras chatas and mamish make a mum, the minker hazeka hachinam nemechayim b'di adam. You would be chayiv. So Amri, who did the field certain pater? The truth is, if you would make a cut, also you'd be pater in that case too. B'di adam. So why is it mentioned that use like counterweights. The chiddush is that something which is a hezek shenu nicker, you would think maybe you're not patur b'di shemayim at all. So no, for that you will at least be chayiv b'di shemayim. Yomi Rabbi, hasarif shtara shel chaveroi, person who burns a document of his friend, patur. Yermulei, you can say nayara koli minach. All I did was burn paper. Now, even though that's true, now he won't be able to collect because he doesn't have that document. That's a grumma. And as we said before, grumma b'nizakin is patur. Maskava Rami Bar Chama, Hechidama. What exactly is the case over here? As we continue to Sadi Chesam and Beis, what exactly is the case? Then lichtav malia. So understand. If you have witnesses that already know that this guy owes someone else money, so then just let him write another star, and that's it. Now, the leikat sahadi, anan menayadinan. If there's no witnesses, then how are we going to know about the star, about what's on it? Says Rashi, well, itzrach leila meimer to pater. Obviously, it's going to be pater because the star might not mean anything. There's no witnesses. So Amarava tehei b'ma'aminoi tehei ba'aminoi. Says Rashi, Baal Star, there'll be like trust of the Baal Star was Sairef b'chol ma she'omer shekacha yikasuba she'afil hachi pater. Even if the guy would say, whatever the guy says, I trust, and therefore the reality is we would normally say that because of that he should be chayiv, that then is in that situation is still pater. Amrav Dimi Bar Chanina Hada Rabba Machloikis Rav Shimon Rabbanan he. This statement is actually machlokas between Rav Shimon and the Rabbanan. So in Perek Maruba says Rashi Gabi Kadashim Shechai B'Acharyasan regarding karbanos in which they're Chai B'Acharayas, namely if you designate a particular animal like as a neder and you say it's upon me, therefore it gets lost or stolen, you have to repeat it, you have to get a replacement. The Eimer we say regarding this star that davar hagar mammon kamaman dami machayev, that according to Rav Shimon he holds that this star, even though it's a davar hagar mammon, it's considered like money itself, and you would be chayev if you would burn it. Or abundant davar hagar mammon lav kamaman dami lo machayev, therefore by burning it would be pater. So it's actually a machlokas. So maskav Rav Huna bar Rav Yehoshua Eimer the Shemon Rav Shimon davar hagar mammon kamaman dami. When do we say something which it causes money is like money? It's only bedavar she'ikaro mamoin kidarabba, only something which in itself is money. The Yomer Rabba gozel chametz lifnei Pesach. For example, if you stole chametz and it was before Pesach, which has value, uvo acher, someone else comes with sarfo b'moyed, and someone burns it in the proper time, pater shahakol mitzuyim olav avayroi, because everyone needs to burn it during that time. Rashi says bevav shoyis on erev Pesach. However, achar Pesach, let's say now it's after Pesach, in that situation, in other words, someone else burns the chametz that someone else stole. Machlokas Rav Shimon Rabbanan. Rav Shimon di'ar medavar hagar mammon kamaman dami chayiv. Or Rabbanan di'ar medavar hagar mammon lav kamaman dami pater. Bedavar she'ein ikar mammon miyamrinan. So maybe Rav Shimon doesn't hold like that when it comes to a star, which is not in itself is not money, but its source, like food, just there's an issue now that it's now Pesach, so it becomes also bahana. But before that, it was ikar mamoin. So maybe that's what the machlokas is. Says Rashi, Shim hoya be'en hoymachziru gaz l'balav, that if it is the way as is now, the Ganav can just simply give it to the Nigzol, and that's it. It's pater. As we saw previously, Gazel Chametz V'Avol Pesach, Armahoshel Fanecha. You can say, here, take it, even though it's worthless. V'Yakshav Shein Be'en, Yakser Domel Mabalav. But now, if it's not, so if it's Be'en, you can say Harshel Fanecha. If it's not, then you have to actually pay. So therefore, the Chametz, even though it's not Mamoin, because it's Chametz V'Avol Pesach, but it's davar hagar mamoin, because it will cause you to have to actually pay if you don't have it. So therefore, it has a status of mamoin. Chametz b'Pesach hu di'amrin and hachim yishum di'ikaru klimer b'tchilasai. At one point, it was money, had value. V'akshav al b'yishenu shavel klum, even though it's worthless now because it's Pesach and this chametz is aser. Garma mamanhu. Al b'vishtari dem oil mohaya gufu mamain misham alei. So maybe the only time Rav Shimon says this din is only, for example, when it comes to chametz shavel Pesach. That again, the gazan can say harsh fanecha, but if it doesn't have the chametz, he has to pay. However, when it comes to like a star, burning a star, who says that? Omer and Maimar, back in the Gemara. Man de doyin din de garmi. Those who are doyin din de garmi, magvile de me star amalia. They can collect the value of an actual star. Says Rashi. We'll see being done din de garmi in a couple of plot. Uman de loyin doyin din de garmi, magvile de me naira ba'alma. All you have to do is collect the value of the paper itself. Havi Uvda, there was a story. V'kafi Rapam Rav Ashi, and he forced V'agbe be ki kushura with Salma. That he had him, because Rashi says star chaver bialdu, so he actually burned it, a star, and he made him pay whatever was written on the star, like a chosen beam. Says Rashi, Piroyin Gomer, min ha'idiots, like the very best. Kikarazu, like this beam, hanivcheres mishar kairais, which is chosen above all other beams. Just in other words, it's saying the din is that he had to pay the entire amount. Okay, fine. Weiter. Chametz available b'Pesach harmel harshal fanech, as we said. So man tana amrinan be'isur hana. When it comes to something like chametz shavu b'Pesach, which is asur b'hana, you can't derive any benefit. Still, you can say harshal fanecha. So Rav Chisda Rav Yaakov he Tanya shor shehemus. If you have an ox that killed, Rashi says, a person, and you sold it before Gemar Din. So Anshul Nigmar Dino Macharai Machor. So if you sell before, it's a good sale. It's a good sale. Says Rashi, Vo Yisakil, and it won't be killed afterwards. To be Inan Misa V'Hamad B'Din Shehi Shavin Ke'echad. It has to be that it's all owned like by the same owner during the beginning process in the court in the Gemar Din, the verdict. But therefore, if you sold it, it's a good sale because it was mutter b'hana, and now we don't execute it. Hekdishu mukdash, shachtu b'sar mutter. If you shacht it, it's mutter. Hachziru shaym l'bal mukser. And if a shaymer has it, he can give it back to the owner, and it is in the shaymer's potter. However, mishenigmar dino, once there's already a verdict that this is a shar niskul that's going to be sentenced to death, enu machar, you can't sell it. Hekdish enu mukdash, it's not hektish. Shacht b'sar aser, if you shacht it, the meat is aser. Aser b'hana. And here's the key. Hechziroi shaymer l'bal min mukser. When it comes to the shaymer, he cannot return it. Rav Yaakov Omer, no. He could give it back. The shemer could give it back. So we see in Machlokas, after Gemar Din, whether the shemer can simply give it back. So my love must be this in the Machlokas. The Rabbi Yaakov, who said that even after Gemar Din, the shemer could give it back. Savar Oimrin b'Yisur Hanar Harshal Fanecha. You can say give it back. Rabbanan Savar Ein Oimrin b'Yisur Hanar Harshal Fanecha. Sarmalei Rabba Lo. The Kol Yam Oimrin b'Yisur Hanar Harshal Fanecha. You always give it back. So if that's the case, I understand Rav Yaakov Shita B'Abdu Rabbanan. The Im Kain Niflu b'Chametz b'Pesach. It would make more sense if, in fact, they argue. Then they should argue about Chametz Shalva b'Pesach, which we saw this already previously. It says Rashi, Lav Ister de Asi Alehem Amelahu. It's a lav which just happens. You didn't do it b'yadayim. It just became Aser. For example, Chametz b'Pesach. El at katalte b'yadayim. When it comes to the animal, you killed it. You're the one that did something. Dihavi gaboyana me'irkin aleil agma. Because again, if in fact it's necessary to actually have in the Gemar Din, the animal has to be there, if that's the case, at the Beis Din, so you could have hid it in the swamps. Okay, so the point is that if it's true that is the whole machlokas is just whether or not you say by Asuri Hana Har Shulchanecha, then just argue about the classical case of Chamash of Pesach, in which the din is that even though it was something which happened Mamela, that would be a machlokas. Must be that that's not the case. Really, they all hold that you can say Har Shulchanecha. However, when it comes to Isur Hana, especially if it happens to Mamela, over here, as we said, is it necessary to have the actual animal present during the court? You have to have the animal there. If you, the shomer, would have given it to me, the animal, instead of you, if you would have done that, I would have kept it in the swamps. In other words, I wouldn't have brought it to Beis Din. It would never have been killed because the animal has to go to Beis Din physically in front of Beis Din for the psak. So hashta masarte biyad mandalo metzina lishtuye dina bahadei. And what did you end up doing? You basically caused me a loss because you're the one that basically you caused me to end up losing out. Because if you gave it to me, then I would have been able to hide it. But now that you didn't, so therefore he says you can't give it back. Rav Yaakov Savar Garmin Din Shel Shir Shul B'Fanav. No, it doesn't make any difference. You can even do a Gemara Din if the animal's not there. Yermalei Mai Abdilei. What's the purpose of having the animal there? So if having Garmin Din Shul B'Fanav. What's the difference? If the animal's not there, what taina is the animal going to have? So Ashka Rav Chisla Rabbi Marshimo Emily Tanis Midi B'Asuri Hana. Did you ever teach anything regarding the dinim of Asuri Hana? So I'm like, Tanina. The pasuk says V'Heshav S'Gazela. So Ma Tamad L'Leim Rasher Gazal. Why does it repeat that? So Yakser Kein Shagazal. It means you can return it the way that it was when you stole it. Mekan Amru. And from this pasuk we can derive that Gazal Matbeya, if you stole. Again, it says Gazal Matbeya. V'Nifsal, and the coin became posel, as we said before what that means. That it's not something in which the Malchus says it can't be used anymore. Peros for your kivoi, fruits that came rotten, yayin, the chmitza, one became vinegary. Truma v'nitness, and here's the key words. Chametz v'avelo pesach, as well as behema v'nebed bo avera, and avera was done with an animal, like a zara and the like. The shore, and here's another key word, ad shel nigmar dinoi, only before gemar din, armelo har shulchanecha. You can say har shulchanecha only before Gemar Din. So man shaman lady amar ad shel nigmar dino in mission nigmar dino loy rabbanan. The rabbanan say the distinction between before and after Gemar Din. So this statement must be like the rabbanan, but yet the Katani. But it also says in the same statement, which is like the sheet of the rabbanan, chametz v'avol b'pesach amar har shulchanecha. So it must be again a raya that they all hold that when it comes to chametz v'avol b'pesach, you can say har shulchanecha. However, when it comes to Shaimer, we're machalek between before Gemar Din and after Gemar Din. And we can understand because, as according to the Rabbanan hold, that the din of the animal can only be done only with the animal there. And therefore, after Gemar Din, the Shaimer cannot give it back anymore because you caused the owner a loss. Because the Shaimer, instead of the Shaimer having it in the presence of the Beis Din, the guy could have held it in some swamp. If you find him, don't tell them this. What does that mean? Says Rashi, Mishum dedochu de mishkache tiyufta lamilse. Since this is against my interpretation, as I thought the Rabbanan disagreed with this point. If you have fruit and then it was rotten, you can just give them the rotten fruit. But Tanan, what do you mean? We learned Paris for Kivo, Misham Chashasa Gzela. You have to give them good fruits, like the time was stolen. So Papa Kan Shir Kivu Kulon, Kan Shir Kivu Mixasan. So it's totally on whether it was completely rotten or partially rotten. So when it's partially rotten, here you can say Har Shulchanecha. Since it's not really a shinoi, the ganav isn't kaina it. However, if it's completely rotten, so then the Ganav can no longer say anything. Okay, let's look at question 6b. Gazel perais herkivo ha'im kanan bishinoi. Only if it's completely rotten. Let's see. Herkivo kulin kana, herkivo miksasan loy kana, as we just saw. Okay. All right, we'll see a little bit of the next piece. Let's continue with TA 26, which is on Sadi Ches Amud Aleph. Nafal Kisul Liam HaMelech in Mechalon Olav Madua. So the answer is because the Vesaris Kakesa Biyadacha Beinan Matsoi Biyadacha. It's Davka when it comes to Meiser Shani. It says that it had shiny Indian Meiser the Beinan Matsoi Biyadacha. The Rachmana Omer was Sarta Kesa Biyadacha Valeka. So therefore, that's the reason why we make an exception that we're particular Davka when it comes to Meiser Shani because of the Gzeres HaKasav. TB 27. Hazark matbeya shel chaver yam hagadol mahadin. Okay, this is a little bit more of a lengthy question, but nonetheless, this is what I wrote. Im hamayim sol, if the water's clear. Let's get this. It sounds like I'm going to get this right. TB 27. So this is the very beginning. Hazark matbeya shel chaver yam hamelech potter. Because again, you can just say go grab it, right? And it's just grama b'nezikin. But we only say this if the water is clear. However, not if it's murky waters, as long as he didn't actually grab hold of it. Otherwise, he would have to return it if he grabbed hold of it. Okay, so that's what I wrote. Let's see what I wrote. Imamayim solul omer hoshav v'zer ragrama liskor divers avolo im hamayim hayachurim. Dirty, murky. V'chol zeh rak im ata knocked it out of his hand. Im ata tokef es hamatbeya miyadai ozo yochel loimer zeh shehu kaina hamatbeya bitfisa shalo, something like that. Okay, not bad. Okay, let's continue. Let's see the next Mishnah. Noisen le'umnin wasakein. Let's say you give something to a craftsman or someone who has these skills to fix v'kilkalu. They ended up messing it up. So you gave him a cup. You want him to fix it. Turns out he broke the whole thing. So din is chayav l'shalim. He has an obligation to have to pay you for it. Nasan l'charash. Let's say you gave to a carpenter either shida tevo migdal, you gave him like some chest, something along. Rashi says an arga shall go asum merchav nashim, like some chariot of sorts. Was sakin v'kilkul chayv shalim. So it seems like the same thing. Okay, let's say v'habnai, you gave to builders shekibul of listor as a kaisel to knock down a wall. V'shibur havanim, knock down some stones. Or he's vishiber and it broke. Havanim. Or she's kan chayv shalom. Again, any damage they're chayv. Chayisoyser mitzad zev and nafal mitzad acher potter. Let's say he knocks it down from one side and the other side falls, he's potter. V'imachmas hamake chayv. But if it's due to his banging, then he'll be chayv. Says the Gemara. Amar of Asi. Remembering it's Rav Asi. Lo shanu el shenasan l'charash. She had to have a migdal. That the only time we say that the carpenter is going to be chayiv is you actually gave him this thing, linoitz behen masmer, to knock in some nails. The nuts behen masmer was shibron, and he knocked in some nails and he broke it. Then he's chayiv. All he did is give him some wood, some raw materials, and from that wood he was supposed to build a carriage. Then he builds it, the shibron, but then it breaks. Potter. Why? My time, because the uman kind of shlach kli. Because the uman, he made the kli from wood to a kli. So he's kinda the improvements of the kli, and therefore he's going to be potter from having to pay for this actual shit tiva migdal, because he's the one that made it. Tanan, nasul umanim v'kilkuloi. You gave two workers and he ruined it. Chayav l'shalom. So my love, you have who hates him. You gave him wood, you're still chayav. Lo shit tiva migdal. You gave him a shit tiva migdal. That's when you're chayav, which is mashma hamin. The tiny save shit tiva migdal. Machal dereisha hates him. Amri. No, Pirushikam Afarish law. All it's doing is explaining one. One explain the other. Ketzad. Naslu Manim Osakin. Let's say you gave this worker to fix something and kilkul chayav l'shalom. When are you chayav? Only kiganch nasl l'char shida teva migdal. However, if you given them wood and they built a shida teva migdal, and then they were makalkal, then to be potter, because they're kind of a shvach kli. V'achanam mustaber. And this is logical. The ketzad katani. It says ketzad. The isakatat acharesha. Him, and that you're still chayiv, even you gave him wood and he made a shade of a migdal, even there you're chayiv. So hashta ashmi in an eitzim chayiv lo shalim. If that case you're chayiv, v'ormin uman kind of a shvach kli, and that for we went out that he's not kaina. So shade of a migdal, if you give him that, man, boy, of course you're going to be chayiv. So it's double pashut. No, imishum ha lo area. That's not a raya. Tanis sevel guli reisha. Maybe it's just coming to explain the other. Shaloi timer reisha shid have a migdal of eitzim low. That maybe by eitzim you would taka be potter. Tana seif shid have migdal machal the reisha eitzim yafil hachi chayv l'shalim, which again is not the din, but it's not necessarily a raya to that effect. Okay, we masayale. Oh, let's stop here. Okay, let's see if there's any more questions. No question 7. No question TA. No questions on TB. Rabbi Gibber. Okay. Mahim based to nine b'chei agav zerk matbeh shel chaver liyam hamelech patur lefi rabba. The water's clear. You'll be pot. The water's clear. The coin was in the owner's hand, and you knocked it out of his hand. Okay. Hasarif shtar rasav shel chaveroi. If you burn someone, shtar chayiv. L'man di'armer davar hagarim l'momen kamomen dami. I wrote machlokas, and if you're done in the garmi, then you are chayiv. Shor shehemis b'rishos hashaymer v'hechzir b'shayim l'balam li'acher gemar din. So there's a machlokas Tanakam Rabbi Yaakov, you're potter or not. So what's a machlokas? So maybe Rabbi Yaakov holds if something is asur b'hana, you can say Harsh Havanacha. Tanakama say you cannot say this by Yisur Hana. So you're chayiv. No. Everyone holds you can say Harsh Havanacha by Yisur Hana. Or else they'd argue by Chametz, by Pesach. The machlokas is, can you judge the case shlo b'fanav of the animal? Rabbi Yaakov holds it doesn't matter, even if the shomer has it, the din would, long answer, still go through, since you judge shel b'fanav. Tanakama holds it could only be done b'fanav of the animal. So the Baal Hashor could say, if you'd have given my shore back, I'd have it graze in the swamp, and no din would occur on it. But it remained in your rishos. The Beis Din took it away from you, and now I can't do a thing about it. So the shemer is chayav. That is one long answer, but I want to be sure I was right. Mao time shel Rabbi Asi benotchen the nosen cherish eitzim laso yishin v'megdol yosim hem yishin v'megdol v'nis of a serfan to potter. A worker is kaina the shvach kli. Adkan.